That is the beautiful solo, well, my version of it at least, of To Something by the Beatles. Many people consider that one of the greatest guitar solos ever played in a rock music song, and I would tend to agree. It's as good as it gets. And one of the things that makes it beautiful is the bending, and we're going to talk about bending today. Okay, we're discussing bending. No, we're not. I don't have my papers. I'll be right back. And I am back, and I have my paper. So I've uploaded this document, which my light is making it hard to see. Bending lesson it's up on the Stuart's Opera House AMP pages. And we're going to talk about bending and what it is today. I'm sure a lot of you already know what bending is. You've certainly heard it. It's a very, very common technique used in rock music. So I want to teach you how to do it accurately and teach you some unique ways to go about it. First of all, bending really is just playing not the note that you're fretting. Now, in my examples on here, I've got them fretted, them all set up basically so we're still in that C major pentatonic thing. Some of these things go away from there just for so I can show you some iconic licks and things, but for the most part, we're going to stay in that position. So I'm going to play the 7th fret on my G string is a D note, and when you bend a note, you're really just playing up to a different note. That's a whole step bend. You play half step bends, quarter step bends, all kinds of different ways to play little things, but you're essentially playing another note by pushing your string and stretching it to get to that point. Now, that being said, I would, if you're really serious about playing guitar, practice doing your bends with one finger. But for the most part, I tend to give myself a little bit of boost. Get your 3 fingers in a row, and you're essentially pushing the string up, making the string tighter and more tense. Now, I'm going to show you the first few examples on our pages. I think there's 10 of them. No, there's 4. Looks like there's 7 examples of how you can actually bend notes. So you can bend a note a quarter step. Just to give it a little tension, a little quarter step bend, just a little bit. You can bend. The next example is a half step bend. That means I'm bending to that note. It's a good way to test your bending, by the way. Pick a note, bend to it. Pick a note and bend to it. 7th fret, bending to the note that's on the 8th fret. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bend to the 9th fret, which is an E. It's also the same. There's another example later on. I'm going to explain how to do this in a minute. I'm going to actually wait. There's another step, 1.5 step bend. That's to the 10th fret. You'll hear these bends in rock music quite a bit. I'm going to bend now to the 11th fret. Was that right? To the 11th fret. That's literally 4 half steps. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 to that. Not very often do we bend that far. It's just a good thing to practice being able to do accurately. Here, David Gilmour does this on some songs. So, bending accurately, very, very important. Now, before we go into the licks, I am going to show you a way to practice doing your bends accurately that are kind of fun. If you put your first finger on the 5th fret of the B string, and your 3rd finger, or preferably pinky, on the 8th fret of the G string, you bend to do a unison bend. Unison bends are kind of important. They're actually a useful tool too. I forgot to even mention that. So the other way to practice that, get accurate. And now the other one to practice is a whole step bend. Your 3rd finger on the 7th fret, first finger playing E. You want to hear them become the same, and that's that's an easy way to practice getting your bends sounding. I guess if you're a sloppy bender and you don't bend to the right note, it ends up sounding sort of. I mean, sometimes you want that effect, but usually you're going for a really accurate bend. You don't want things that come out sounding. You want to get usually bending to a point is the point I'm trying to make. So a nice way to practice that is now these things I forgot can be pretty useful. That's a unison bend. You're bending up to the notes match. Okay, we're gonna move on to lesson. I don't know. Right, I'm back. The first lick we're gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to use a quarter step bend in the middle of a song. Now I think this got started in blues guitar more than anything because the pentatonic scale, which is that real common scale that we frequently use to play the blues, is not lacking. For lack of a better word, its tonality is sort of a minor feel, and the blues are in dominant 7 fills, which have a major third in them. So instead of this note, you actually want that note. So what blues players did is they began to push that note a little higher to make it have that more major feel. Right? So what we're doing is we're playing the 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th fret, 8th fret, and just bending that note a little bit to give it that major. And that's a very, very common way to use a bend, just to create the tonality that you're looking for in the music rather than. Gives it some energy too, doesn't it? All right. Example number 2 is a full step bend in a blues lead. Now, this is going to move into, we're going to be using the cage shape. It's the E shape, I believe. Yeah, the E shape of the cage shapes, and it's this. Right, so we're bending the 10th fret up to the 12th fret. So it's a full step bend, a whole step. Now you can hear that I'm sort of releasing it a little bit in there, which is another stylistic way to use bends in your playing. So you bend it, hold it, and pick it and bring it back down. Now I don't have that notated in here very well, but you'll come up with all kinds of creative ways to use bends in your music if you work on it. So it's a full step bend, 10th fret, bend to the 12th. And that's example number 2 on our sheet, okay? All right. Example number 3 is kind of like a Chuck Berry lick or something you might have heard in an Eagles song. Back in that 5th fret position, and I'm going to bend the 7th fret. And then I'm going to use my first finger to play the 5th fret and the 5th fret on the B string and the E string. It's a very common lick. It sounds a lot like, but 7th fret bend to the 9th fret, then the 5th fret and the 5th fret. So you're kind of meeting that note. Example number 3. Example number 4 are two bend licks. So the same bend lick, just played on different strings. What these are called, I call them static bends, and I don't know if that's the right way to phrase them. But what you're doing at this point is you're holding one note. In this case, you're going to hold the 8th fret of the B string with your pinky, and you're going to bend the 7th fret of the G string with your 3rd finger and maybe your other helper fingers. And you can hear that bend into a chord. Now, to me, that chord is a C. Now, the same lick can be used on other strings, right? I mean, this would be a C bend, this would be a G bend, a D bend, and a C bend again. If we go over a string, put our 3rd finger on the 8th fret of the B string, and your first finger, or your pinky, on the 8th fret of the same of the E string, 8th fret, 8th fret, and then bend that till they become another whole step bend. We're bending the 8th fret to the 10th fret. That becomes, and you hear, well, that has to be accurate, right? That becomes an F chord. To the C chord. Holding one note steady. A way to learn to do this and get good at it maybe is to bend and then put that note in. And there's a lick later on that's going to be part of that example. But eventually learn to hold your pinky stable while you bend that note up. Right? So the next one is the F and the C. Right? That's example number 4. Example number 5 is also over a C chord. Now we're going to bend the same note we did before, 7th fret of the G string, a D bending to an E, but we're going to reach over the string and grab the high E string's 8th fret, which is a C note. So you're bending that note, grabbing that with your pinky. So that is actually written in the music. So we're going to bend, and then, so we have a pre-bent note. Bend it first. We've already bent it in this lick. And back down. Bend the note, play, hold it, and release. Alright, that was number 5. Alright, example number 6 is an example of a 1.5 step bend. And I'm actually going to play this one instead of an A minor and C, in B minor and D. And it does also originate in the E shape, the E form of that chord. Now, in the Eagles song Hotel California, I think he slides into it. I've got it set up as hammer-ons. And you're actually taking that B, which is the 12th fret of your B string, the same note, and you're bending it all the way to what would be the note on the 15th fret. Right? That's the beginning of that solo. Good way to test yourself probably would be to, you're trying to get to that note. Learn to be accurate. Sometimes releasing them, you get a nice effect by. So, example number 6. Right, example number 7 is really similar to what the solo at the end of Sweet Child of Mine is like. And it's literally, it's back at that 5th fret position. You can't see the end of my guitar. I'm trying to do this up close to you. Same back to the A minor, C major pentatonic scales. And you're playing the 5th fret and pulling off to the 5th fret. So from the 8th fret to the 5th fret, so it's actually A, G, E. And you're bending the 7th fret of the G string from a D to an E. this lick quite a bit. Number 8 now is an example of bending and releasing, and then playing other notes while you're going. It's kind of complicated. Now we're going to play this one out of the E shape over C. So I'm bending the note and then playing that. We did that lick earlier over an F chord. And this time I'm going to grab the C that's on the 8th fret of that string. And alternate. Pretty simple, not simple. Don't say simple. It's not simple. You got to practice it. Number 9 is very similar to the lick at the beginning of "Mama, I'm Coming Home" by Ozzy Osbourne. Hear that at the beginning. I'm going to play this actually at the in the C position. So I'm starting on the 8th fret. I'm going to use my pinky to bar those two notes and starting with that note already bent up, okay? It becomes a C chord at that point. It's a C, an E, and a C, and we're bending back down from that. That's an actual E note. Ends up being that chord. So start with the note up. The pinky is already in place. Number 10 gets a little weird. Number 10 is an example of where you can use, you're actually going to bend a note down to another note. So I'm actually going to play the 7th fret. I'm playing outside those scales now. The 7th fret on the B string is an F sharp note. This note is a D, which kind of makes a D chord, right? Well, the D dominant 7 chord has a C in it. You can hear that, right? It has that note in it. So you can use. So I'm going to bend my first finger. I'm going to bend to that note. Really nice effect if you're going for that dominant 7 sound. First finger bends that note up and holds it, but don't play it yet. And you end up playing the 7th fret on the D string too. That's an A, and that outlines that dominant 7 chord. One of my favorite licks. Finally, number 11, the last lick we're going to do today. Now, if you bend 2 strings at the same time, what you get is, because each string is its own tension, its own feel, some strings take more energy and effort to bend than other strings. And in this particular example, we're going to bend the 7th fret of both the D string and the B string at the same time. Now, when I bend this, actually what's happening is if I bend them equivalently, the B string only bends a half step. And actually the G string bends a whole step. So you're going to hold those both with your pinky and your 3rd finger, hopefully. And you can use other fingers. Some people might bend that with 1 finger, but I would recommend getting your pinky and your 3rd finger on there. You can hear those notes bend together. If you can go through all these different bend licks and accomplish these and end up being able to do this one accurately too, you've got a pretty good bending vocabulary to use. And then you got to learn a song like Hotel California or something by the Beatles, which is Adam Remnant's favorite guitar solo, by the way, and start using these things. So that's bending both strings at the same time. Really nice functional lick to use because it does come in handy in song. Cool. Cool. Well, thank you very much for paying attention to me today, and I will hopefully see you on Thursday. And I do have documents for all this, and we'll give hopefully we'll be able to ask questions on Thursday and find out what we're actually trying to do here. You guys all have a great week. Thanks.